So I was out driving the other day and I saw a sign, a literal sign that said, "You belong here." And I immediately knew that it was actually a sign from Spirit with a message for me to share with you today. So I'm going to channel into what Spirit wants you to know about this idea of belonging and why you belong here. So I feel like I'm connecting to someone who is questioning whether or not they belong to a particular place, a group, an industry, a career, something like that. Like, I really feel for some of you, it's a space of some kind. It may not be a literal, physical group of people, but just for example, like an artist, right? Feeling like you belong in a group of artists, or that you could call yourself an artist. And you somehow, and this is just an example, but you somehow feel like you don't belong to this kind of group. So yeah, there's an element of comparing yourself with others and feeling like you don't measure up in some way. You come up short. Maybe you feel like you're not good enough, or you don't even have what it takes to get good enough to say, I belong with these people. And, this is like an unworthiness kind of wound. And this is a really tricky kind of wound to deal with because it's usually deeply subconscious. It comes about from something that we've gone through either in childhood, like some kind of trauma, or some kind of subconscious programming that we've picked up from just the people around us, things that were maybe said or even implied that made you feel like you were unworthy in some way. And then it comes out in all different kinds of ways. And one of the ways is feeling like you don't belong, like you're not good enough to be considered, like I said, like an artist, not belonging in a particular space because you feel like you don't measure up. And some other things that Spirit's saying, how you might know if you have this wound, because it's deeply subconscious, which means we're not aware of it. But how you know that you're aware is if you struggle with people pleasing, perfectionism. What is the other thing they were saying? They were giving me some kind of examples of unworthiness. Self-doubt. That's the other one. That's a really big one. You just have this crippling self-doubt, maybe negative self-talk. If you're dealing with those kinds of things, you probably have this unworthiness wound. And Spirit is saying you don't need to do a ton of shadow work and therapy and all these things, which are great. And if that is something that calls to you, definitely do that. But Spirit is saying just kind of recognizing that is enough. And the other thing is that Spirit is saying it's time for us to claim what we want and to really take our power back and our autonomy back. You do not need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait to heal. Like they were saying, you don't need to go to therapy and do all this shadow work. Although those things are helpful, sometimes you can kind of get stuck in those spaces, and it's almost like a loop, Spirit showing me, of you just keep revisiting the wounds. You're trying to figure out where did this come from? How did this start? And Spirit is saying it's almost like that's not really, it's not that it's not important, but if you're getting stuck there, Spirit's saying maybe take a different approach to this, and almost kind of like a rebellious approach to this, and say, no, I'm not going to let anything stop me from being where I feel like I belong. If you have a desire to be somewhere, like I said, just to be part of a group, to be on YouTube. They're using me as Spirit's giving me examples for myself, and I don't want to use myself as an example too much, but so I'm not talking about myself, but that's what I can relate this to, and this might help you understand and see how this connects to your life. But just being on YouTube, that is a huge like thing that drags up that unworthiness wound. Like feeling like I'm not good enough to be in this space. I mean, just like a second ago, like I'm stumbling over my words. And this is something that has been really difficult for me to overcome. I know that I'm not always, it's not that I'm not articulate, but I sometimes have trouble finding the words for what I want to say. And I'm not someone that's really comfortable like speaking off the cuff. And of course, with channeling, I'm just in the moment and I don't have anything prepared. And that makes me nervous. And it's partly like the perfectionist in me that doesn't want to mess up. And there's also this fear of like, what if I just don't know what to say, or I can't find the words for what I'm feeling? And then the viewer gets like impatient and clicks off, all of that kind of thing. And you compare yourself. It's very easy to compare yourself when you are trying to put yourself out there on social media, for example. So maybe that's something you're trying to do. You're trying to start a Facebook page or Instagram or YouTube, and you just have all of these things coming up for reasons why you can't do that, or you're not good enough to be in the same kind of space that other people are, that you see, that you admire, and you see that you're so different, or that you struggle with some things. And Spirit's saying that that's not enough of a reason for you not to belong in those spaces. Just because I am not a perfect speaker and I'm not great at that yet, Spirit's also saying this is something that you get better at, but you don't need to wait until you are perfect at it, because you're never ever going to be perfect, because we're humans and no one's ever perfect. Even the best, YouTuber, they probably edit their videos a lot, right? They still make mistakes. And like, I'm not super big on editing. For one thing, I just want to be more natural and authentic. I don't, as a viewer myself, like highly edited videos. And it's just not something I want to spend a lot of my time on. I want to spend my time doing other things. So Spirit is saying, again, you don't have to be perfect to be in the spaces that you want to be in. And Spirit's emphasizing that there are not enough unique voices in the different spaces we can consider, right? Just think about the different industries that exist out there. For example, thinking like politics or the healthcare industry. I mean, just any industry, business, whatever it is. There needs to be people who are different. And when you have lots of people who like all belong because they have so many similarities, they all kind of talk the same, right? They pick up that like lingo of their industry. So everyone starts sounding the same, looking the same. They might all dress a certain way. And this happens anytime we have groups of people gathering, any kind of space. Things tend to start getting sort of homogenous. And Spirit is saying we need more people to show up in different ways, like unique voices, maybe people who are a little bit quirky, a little bit awkward, people who are more authentic, people who come with unique ideas and unique way of looking at the world. And you might think like, oh, nobody really thinks about these things the way I do, so there must be something wrong with me, like I'm weird and I'm not going to be accepted. And Spirit is saying that isn't the point. The point isn't about being accepted. And now they're bringing up the new earth and like the leadership for the new earth, and what leadership we need to get us to the new earth requires people who are very, very different, because we're in the situation that we're in here in the world because we don't have enough diverse voices. What is this? Like, it's not necessarily diverse, but yeah, just like people who feel like they don't have something to say of importance or something of value to add. And they're thinking that, like, I feel like I'm connecting to people who think that because they're so different, because you don't fit in, that you don't belong in those spaces. And Spirit's saying, actually, that's what we need now. We kind of need the people who don't fit in, the people who've been sitting on the sidelines, on the periphery, just like watching all of this unfold. You have so much genius inside of you, Spirit is saying. You have something different and unique to offer, and that's exactly what we need now. What we need are innovative voices. So we're in the age of Aquarius now, but we're still kind of in the early stages of that. And once like the new earth is really here, that is really going to be when we're immersed in the age of Aquarius, and innovative, creative ideas are going to be really what drives the success of the new earth, is what I'm hearing. We need that now. We need people to step up now who are these kinds of voices that are different. And otherwise we're not going to have solutions for the problems that we have now, like to get us out of this 3D mess that we're in order to shift into something brand new. We need brand new voices, brand new kinds of leadership. And this is something I know that Spirit wants me to talk a lot about on this channel in terms of the new earth, is the leadership for the new earth. And it needs to be like really different than what we think of as leadership now. Most of us don't look at ourselves as potential leaders, because we look at leaders and we think, oh, they look this way, or, you know, they act this kind of way, and, you know, they have PhDs, and they have a lot of, you know, connections, and maybe you're an introvert, you know. And this is what Spirit is saying, like, we need different leadership if we want to see the kinds of changes that we want to see for the new earth. So you can be someone who's shy and introverted and meek and maybe a little weird, and you have kind of off the wall ideas. We need more people like that. So if there is a space that you are trying to be part of and you feel like you don't fit in, Spirit is saying, take the initiative to put yourself in those spaces. I did write down a couple things that I was getting before I turned the camera on, and I was channeling into this message a little bit about taking back your power and your autonomy, and you decide what you want to experience and make it happen. Stop, like I said before, stop waiting for permission and acceptance into these spaces. Put yourself into these spaces. And the energy right now is really supportive for that. And Spirit's saying that's why they're bringing this in now. We're in Aries season. If you're watching this when I post the video, March 2026. And this energy is a great support for taking charge of your life and you deciding what your identity is and where you're going to put yourself, what spaces you're going to put yourself into. And yeah, it's kind of this like rebellious energy a little bit, and not letting anybody tell you where you belong. No one gets to decide that for you. Don't let other people or even ideas in your mind take your agency away. Put yourself into the spaces that you wish to be in and let your entire imperfect self be seen. And more of us do that, it's going to start shifting what leadership looks like. Like, people will just start getting used to us being part of the conversation. Those of us that are kind of awkward and we've always felt like super self-conscious and like we don't fit in. These are the spaces that we need to occupy. So I'm showing up here on YouTube with my imperfect channel, and I'm learning as I grow, and I'm not going to let my fears about being seen and messing up stop me from showing up. I want to be in this space. You know, I want to have a YouTube channel, and if it takes me, 10 years to figure it out and be successful, then that's what it's going to be. And I'm totally good with that. But we need more, like, especially with, AI being so much a part of our lives now, and that can be looked at as one of like those innovative tools that might offer us some solutions for how we kind of deal with our 3D issues that we have today, that we just feel stuck and helpless in many ways. And maybe AI is going to help us move more towards what we want, moving towards 5D consciousness and the new earth. But there's also a lot of talk in the YouTube community. I'm sorry to use that as an example, but it just helps illustrate kind of what Spirit is saying here. And, you know, there's so much, I don't know, it just feels like so much AI content on YouTube doesn't feel authentic, right? You can't feel the humanity in a lot of content that's being created right now. And there needs to be kind of a balance, and there needs to be more real people like talking about like real solutions, and just putting ourselves out there and not feeling, and like the AI stuff can also make you feel, because it's like so like perfect, right? In many ways, it's almost like too perfect. And really people don't want that. And we think sometimes that that is what we're trying to do. We don't realize we're trying to do that. Like we're trying to be perfect because we feel like we don't belong in a space if we're not good enough. But really, when you look at it, when things are too perfect, they seem fake. And you start to feel like, I don't know if I can trust this information or these people. So actually, not being perfect is exactly what we need. Let me just see if there's anything else that Spirit wanted to share with that. Yeah, just that you are a voice that spaces need. So wherever you feel like you want to belong, but you've been hesitating, Spirit saying, put yourself in there and just let yourself be seen. These spaces are craving this kind of energy, your kind of energy. What you have to bring to the table is exactly what those spaces are craving right now. So I think I'm going to leave this message here. If this resonated with you, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is this something that you struggle with also? And let me know if this resonated with you. And if you can like, share, subscribe, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll see you really soon. Bye.